As the fentanyl crisis in the state continues to grow, one of the many bills filed this legislative session looks to increase the penalties for people who are running makeshift labs in their homes and spreading the drug. Capitol reporter Shannon Hecht brings us details.
The bill by Senator Sharon Hewitt, who is also running for governor, has been widely supported as a way to crack down on the state's growing fentanyl issue. The bill increases the punishment for the first, second, and third offenses of running a clandestine laboratory. Those labs could include basic things like blenders, pill presses, and other tools to cut fentanyl and be sold under a different name.
It takes very little equipment, and they're taking fentanyl and cutting it, so that it only takes a little bit of fentanyl in any of these prescription drugs to be deadly.
The penalties will have much larger fines and a minimum of 10 years in prison without parole. These labs are becoming more common, as the East Baton Rouge Parish Sheriff's Office is seeing. Since January of last year, there have been over 340 fentanyl-related deaths in the parish.
All of that fentanyl that they were used was recut or reprocessed here in Baton Rouge. When we receive fentanyl as a community from source cities, most times it's processed in these home labs.
Hewitt says as she tours the state for her campaign, she meets someone at every stop who has lost someone to the drug. Other bills moving through the session are taking aim at dealers and other penalties. The bill just has one more stop on the House floor before it's sent to the governor's office. Hewitt says that she has yet to see any opposition on the bill and is hopeful that it'll be passed soon. At the Capitol for your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
A controversial bill brought protesters out to the Capitol on Monday. The bill by State Representative Valerie Hodges would ban the buying or leasing of property to foreign adversaries or those connected to one. However, protesters are worried about discrimination. Hodges says the main focus of the bill is to prevent China from acquiring critical infrastructure in Louisiana. Some Asian Americans say the measure would keep them from buying or renting housing. The bill was changed to exclude them, but some still fear it could have a negative effect on real estate and is discriminatory. The latest effort to increase pay for legislators fell short after many said it was not the right time. Louisiana State House members make a little more than $16,000 a year plus per diem pay. That pay has not been increased since the 1980s. The proposed pay would be 75% of the state's median income, bringing it to about $40,000 a year. But the measure fell short in committee after debate over removing teacher pay raises from the budget took center stage.
What I don't agree with is the current mechanism that we are in control of awarding ourselves a pay raise when, quite frankly, teachers deserve a pay raise. Our hardworking women and men in law enforcement certainly deserve a pay raise. State workers, and the list goes on.
Some have advocated for a separate agency having the responsibility of deciding legislator pay. For now, the pay will stay the same. Law enforcement leaders gathered at the state capitol to urge lawmakers to invest in the kids of Louisiana to keep them off the streets. Lawmakers debated how to invest the state's money as federal pandemic aid runs out. R.L. Salk reports.
Jails are not the answer. Education is the answer.
You might not expect to hear this from someone working in law enforcement, but with millions of federal funding on the chopping block, Pointe Coupee Sheriff Renee Thibodeau says children's futures are at risk.
If you do not educate this child between 1 and 4 years old, you're going to spend 3 times that money to incarcerate that child.
Law enforcement leaders from across the state are all members of the initiative Fight Crime, Invest in Kids.
In our state, too many children aren't getting the start that they need. And once they fall behind, they play catch up for a long time. And some for a lifetime.
They are urging state legislative action in advance of Louisiana losing some $200 million in federal funding.
It's just like building a house. You don't put the roof on before you build a solid foundation. You start from the bottom up.
They say federal COVID-19 funding has enabled 16,000 children to get child care.
These funds cover more than just seats alone. They help Ready Start Network like ours, attract and retain early childhood staff.
A new report claims childhood education and care initiatives are effective in reducing crime. They say funding in House 1 budget bill will fill the funding gap.
If they do not receive this help, they will fall behind emotionally, socially, and some of them are going to end up in our jails.
Coming up, our own Shannon Heck joins us in studio for a chat about a big pile of money your state lawmakers found and how they plan to use it. Stay with us.